Isabella now. One sec. Okay, awesome. Isabella, you should be host now. All right, see you guys.
All right, hello everyone. I will take just like a quick moment so that everyone who wants to be in for ACT will come in, and everyone who doesn't want to can head out. Yeah, I can allow like a 2 minute or so break if you need to go get a drink of water. Also, for this class, it is very important to be in the Google Classroom. So since I did actually post some materials in there for today. If you're not in the Google Classroom, I will send out the code like once again. But I really hope that at this point, like you should definitely want to join. So here, I will just like I'm going to share my screen, and you can see this is the code. I will leave it up for 2 minutes if you guys want to take a break. Today we're going to be doing ACT reading. Yeah, I can quickly go over a couple of the questions on the homework. I will definitely go over 39. 39 was definitely the trickiest one, but yeah. Let me go ahead and, all right, so I think that's about time for enough. Well, that's like about enough time for break. So let's just quickly go over the math homework. Okay, so since Grace you asked so nicely, I can go over those. I should probably switch to mouse first. So the first one, 27, if 5 times the number n is subtracted from 15, the result is negative. Which of the following gives the possible values for n? So 5 times the number n, that would be 5n, is subtracted from 15, so it would be 15 minus 5n. The result is going to be negative, and what that means is going to be less than 0. So at this point, we have an inequality, and it probably helps to solve it. So 15 is less than 5n, and then n is greater than 3. And then from there, you can just like test a couple of values. Like you could test like, does n equal 4 work? Well, 5 times 4 is 20, subtract it from 15, you get negative 5, which is in the bounds, so the answer will be T. And yeah. That's generally a good tip when it comes to inequalities. When if you're not totally sure about it, then just like feed it a number and see what happens. The number 39 is definitely very tricky, and it's because it's kind of like it's more of a it's more of a definitional thing. So the natural numbers, which is generally referred to with this symbol n, it's going to be your counting numbers. It's going to be like 1, 2, 3, all your positive integers. Code is here, GVYYP25. I can post it up for a little bit longer, but that's kind of it. The integers, basically, the natural numbers, they're negatives and 0. So you have -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, goes off. both ways. Rational number, represented with the Z symbol, by the way, but you won't see that often. I can do 41. I don't want to take up too much time though. Rational numbers, basically any fraction. So, but it's not just any fraction, it includes the integers. So actually you can represent it with a diagram. So you have the natural numbers, you have the integers, the rational numbers. Rational numbers can be like 1/4, but they can also be like 4/1, which is just equal to 4. So rational, represented with a Q. Real numbers is like even bigger. It can include stuff like pi, square root of 3, and then the biggest one is complex numbers. So that includes stuff like I and 3 plus 4i. You know, if you're not too familiar with those, it's okay. The idea is that it's a bunch of like, it's kind of like telescoping in, like you start with complex, you get closer to reals, then you go down to rationals, and then you go down to integers and stuff. But like all of those are subsets of each other. So I will clear this. So when you add two natural numbers, so like 1 and 2, you're going to get another natural number. Because you're just adding them, you're not going to get a negative number. So it's going to be a natural number. Those are also integers. It's also a rational number. It's also a real number, and it's also complex. So this is a total troll question. It is actually E, but the key to that one is just knowing what is a natural number, what is an integer. So I did actually miss a question on a math contest once because I didn't realize, because I forgot what whole numbers meant. Stupid. All right, last one I will talk about is 41, asked by Brenda. The idea with this one is expected value. And expected value has like a very, has a trick to it. It's the outcome times the probability for that outcome. So let's say that I have a nice, let's say I have a spinner and I'm allowed to spin this for free. And there's a 1/3 chance of, there's a 1/3 chance of getting every spot. So you have, in this one, I win $1. In this one, I win nothing. And in this section of the wheel, I win $10, which is pretty good. So in that case, the expected probability, the expected value would be 0 times 1/3. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention you're supposed to add them all together. You have a 1/3 chance of getting 0. You have a 1/3 chance of getting 1, and then you have a 1/3 chance of getting 10. So the expected value of this wheel is like for every spin, you're expected to get an average of 11/3 dollars, or something around like 3.66, so 3.67. All right, so now let's talk about this question, which is like kind of the same. We take the predicted rate, 0.60 plus, not plus, times 0.20 plus 0.70 times 0.40 plus 0.80 times 0.30 plus 0.90, or 0.9 times 0.1. And then from there, you can plug it into your calculator, or you could like do the math. I would recommend using a calculator just to prevent like worst case scenario, like, you know, everyone's prone to error. It's okay. But you're gonna get 0.73. So that's the expected occupancy rate, which is like the percentage of rooms that are occupied. From there, you multiply it by 80, and your answer is going to be 58. Okay, I saw some chat things, so. No problem, Brenda. Doesn't $1 equal $1, not $10? Yeah, I wrote $10, but I think I might have drawn a dot on there, but it is 10. Okay, so now when that's done, let's talk about, oh, I should change back to this. So ACT reading. This one is, in my opinion, the hardest section and was definitely the hardest for me to master. But when you get the hang of it, it becomes a bit more complicated. Yeah. ACT reading, how to read a passage. How to read a passage. I was really tempted to, Before anything, just a quick shout out to those who got a perfect score on the ACT math assignment, Brenda, Rohan, Delbert. Give yourself a pat on the back. Very impressive. There was a very surprisingly small number of perfect scores. So, very impressive. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to give like bonus points anymore because because I heard that the other classes weren't doing that. Um, so sorry about like the false expectations, but you get the glory of having your name on this on the slideshow, and you get my personal like, stamp of approval. So, good, yeah. Um, Okay, so now let's talk about reading. The passages get to co the passages on the ACT reading section. There will be four of them, and they generally follow like a very set like um, mold. Like the first one you will always get like a prose fiction slash literary narrative one. I've never found like a passage to be actually boring. Fortunately, I think the SAT can have some very very dull passages, but the ACT, luckily, like you won't like fall asleep mid passage. But they can still be kind of dense. Oh, there are some ACT passages that are extremely word dense. And I can talk a little bit about how to deal with those, but none of the passages that I talked about today are super word dense. You'll find one of the following types. The first type is prose fiction literary narrative. This will be like an excerpt from an essay, a short story, a memoir, a novel. Humanities, this is like an informative passage, and it can be about like anything. Like there's stuff on history, there's stuff about theater, there's stuff about um, just like the history of the radio, various like I think generally they lean towards history, but I can't remember the other examples off of my top of my head. But it all follows under humanities, and that's going to be the second type of passage. The third type of passage is going to be social science. This will be like something to do with business, economics, politics, psychology, um, how do people work, and how do people like interact with each other. So, and the last one is natural science. Like it talks about biology, chemistry, physics, technology, zoology. They like to talk about animals a lot. um, the difference between this last passage and the actual science section is that the reading section, like, you have to read a bunch of words, and there might be a chart or graph, but it will not be like the focus of the questions. They might ask you a question about like stuff though. So if you have any questions about those, then you can stop me now. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep going. This is not a competition math class, by the way, or like an advanced math class. This is ACT. I hope you know what you're getting yourself into. So types of questions. Of course, if you want tips on the Amy, you can always just ask me that like personally. But if you're just asking that to troll, then I'm afraid I'm afraid I'll have to tell you no. So the types of questions that they'll ask you about. Key ideas and details. They'll ask you to. It's honestly, if you've taken like any sort of standardized test, then it should be kind of familiar to you. Identify central ideas and themes, summarize information. Rohan, I am actually going to be hosting like a special session on qualifying for math Olympiads and MOP, but that will be like coming up, probably like sometime this week. So identify central ideas and themes, summarize information, understand relationships, drawing logical conclusions, craft and structure, determine word and phrase meanings, word choice, text structure. It's sort of like English, but like applied, and you don't have to fix anything. And then integration of knowledge ideas, like summarize the passage, understand their claims, and use evidence to like make connections, especially when you have like one of those where you have two passages and you want to like compare the two of them. So now I'm going to um, now this is where the Google Classroom is important. I know I've just been using it to assign homework, but here you go. If you check the Google Classroom, when there's the handy dandy code, if you still haven't joined, I have actually posted. I did actually post like some material like in an hour ago. If you want to print, if you wanted to print them, you could have done that. I don't mind you attempting the questions in advance. We are going to be discussing these though. So first of all, don't worry about passage 2 just yet. just do passage 1. Um, and in this time, actually, I want you to like try out the questions. And I will set, so make sure you open that. I will set a timer for 9 minutes. You should be spending about 8 minutes and 45 seconds per passage if you want to like stay on top of the timer. But I will give you like a bit of a grace period and give you like 9 minutes. Or I could just give you 10 minutes actually, because like I know that this can be really intense. And I don't want you to like like work at like peak speed and like potentially sacrifice accuracy. So 10 minutes. You can go ahead and start. If you've already done the passage, then like I don't know, take a break. I'm not going to be doing too much. So, okay. Actually, I'm not going to start it yet. Make sure you have the thing open. You don't need to submit any answers. This is like entirely for you. The code, I will leave that up. The code is GVYYP25. Um, I have posted this like 10 times. So just like write it down first and then you can put it in. Um, Aiden, if you continue to spam, I will kick you out. I do not care if you want to qualify for JM or not. This is about the ACT. Any timing strats? I can talk about that at the end. Okay, I think I've left this up for long enough. Just go for 10 minutes work. Okay, cool. Bye. I don't care. You might have typed in something wrong. Then I will unfull screen this and I will just like I can just leave up the code. And then when time comes up, I'll what? There. I don't know what happened. I don't know. You're probably typing in something wrong because like everyone else is. I think I don't know if there's any other issues. Okay, cool. Nice. Cool. Good question about the contest math question for Kid Teach Kid. There is actually a math contest going on. Um, yes, you do have to answer the questions. Um, so there is actually a math contest going on right now on Kid Teach Kid. So like, don't do it right now, like, because you should focus on the class. Um, but yeah, you should do it. You get a lot of points, and you might also get. But we haven't worked out like the full details of the prizes, but you get points, and you might get like a T-shirt or something. Points, you can use those to get special sessions. Yes, you do have to answer the question. Well, just give the questions your best shot. I'm not going to be grading them. The contest problems, I'm not totally sure. You should have gotten an email about it. They should be online on the website. Nope, you don't need to submit your answers here. Um, just like hold on to them. I will post an answer key in like just a moment. Time's up. Hello, I am back. Here are the answers. Let me keep presenting. By the way, there's like no easy way for me to like actually teach reading without you doing it yourself. So in case you're wondering why we're spending so much time on actually working, um, yeah. So here are the answers. If you want, you could tell me in the chat how you did, like out of 10. Um, and then I don't actually have slides to talk about the answers, but I will go over the questions since I have the PDFs pulled up. Did you do well? Did you do not? 9 out of 10 is good. I mean, like, if you miss like 4 questions in the whole test, I think that still gives you like a 33. I don't remember off the top of my head. Oh, oof. It depends. It depends on which thing. I'm seeing a lot of 9s. I will talk about all of these. Don't worry. Yay! I did actually see a 10 out of 10. Congratulations. Very nice. By the way, I will assign some more passages for homework. So um, if you want to redeem yourself, then that's fine. um, Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and have a look at the actual things. Um, so I'll exit presentation and let's just talk about all of these questions. Um, I have the thing pulled up. So here we go. Let's talk about passage one. So this one is like a pretty interesting pass. I think it is like a pretty interesting passage. It talks about it's a fiction novel. I've never actually read the novel, and you probably haven't either. And it's just talking about um, it's a narrator talking about a story that her dad told her about how she was born and how she was named. Um, So I don't know if there's anything specific I should talk about with the passage. If you have any questions about like anything, like if anything was confusing, drop them in the chat. I'm down. But let's talk about the questions. So number one, I think is probably the most straightforward. The point of view, I think you guys definitely know what point of view is. Let me annotate the screen. So it's B. It's the first, clearly it's first person. First person is, from the eyes of someone directly, I, me, keep an eye out for those pronouns. So definitely not C or D. And then from A or B, it just, is it happening to the narrator or is it talking about before they were born? And that should like point out that A is definitely incorrect. So it's going to be B. And next, let's talk about number two. The narrator mentions a piece of flint and a flake of dandruff too. So, okay, first of all, this is where a specific detail gets brought up, and what you should immediately do is like go back to the chat, go back to the passage, and you'll see it in line 21. This is just generally where like it can be really hard to find these details, and I don't have any really good tips for those. I do have like a slide devoted to that in the slideshow, but yeah, just good luck with finding it. So like a piece of flint or a flake of dandruff, and make sure you keep an eye on the context. So her dad has a responsibility of renaming a son after his dad, like skip a generation with the names, and then he just does not care. He's like, I don't care. The grandfather is very mad. He says like the word angrily implies that. So now back to the question. It's definitely not going to be A. The grandfather was definitely not happy about it, and B and H are not very relevant to this actual act. It's going to be J. It's just that, like, he just does not care about it. He throws it away like a piece of lint. He just ignores this tradition of naming. Next. This one I actually found pretty tricky. Like when I was going through this one earlier, I wasn't very clear on the answer either. The answer to this one is A. The reason for that is her initial response is negative, which doesn't really eliminate any of these, but the big one is what does she do after? She's definitely not amused by it. There's nothing where she laughs about it, nothing where she like um gives any indication that she's amused. It's and nor is there anything outraged. Like if she was outraged, she would go in there and change the name. And even resentment, there's not really any much negativity. So it is actually resignation. She just like accepts the name. The narrator keeps her name. Um, and yeah, so it's gonna be that. Okay, number 4. I remember someone asked this one. The sequence of actions described in the 7th paragraph can be described as. So first, check the 7th paragraph, 54 to 68. So the gist of this one is that her mom was mad, rushed out of the hospital, and that she would have to go to this office and go fix the names where to keep the birth and the death. And she is superstitious, so she decides not to do it. And the key part of it is because I still have my name. Like the name change did not go through. So with that, let's return to the question. A memory that so they can be best characterized as Baba's exaggerated account of Mama's trip as to she never makes this trip. That eliminates F. G is the answer. H, it doesn't really show the mom's point of view because it's still from the narrator. And a memory that a narrator shares, the narrator, this is not her memory. She doesn't, and it doesn't reveal much about her personality. It just reveals like her mom. So it's gonna be G. Next is H. No, sorry, not H. Next is 5. I don't know why I said H. This one's D. I highlighted that because because I still have my name. It's definitely not a winter storm. They mentioned heat. Winter is not hot. That Ma had a tendency to change her mind quickly. It doesn't actually imply that, and uh, it wasn't just her dad. It was actually her mom who believed that it would be unlucky. So it is going to be D. By the way, if you have any questions, like put them in the chat. If any of my explanations are very clear. So now we want to talk about a certain phrase that is used. So definitely want to go up to that line 78. So Baba put that sadness into these stories. What sadness? It's the fact that he used to be a writer and is now an architect. This reality that filled him with a great sadness because there's no books and poetry in the house. Um, so what about these stories? Well, they actually mention stories. Tell stories that were impossible um, but true all at once. These are what's being referred to. This is actually the kind of like an English question. Like, what is this like referring to? Check the context, find out what it means, especially if they made him look like a rock star. So it's going to be the embellished tales that he liked to tell. Good. Now number 7, which of the following emotions do Baba and Mama share regarding their professional lives? Actually, this one is pretty, this one, there is a certain phrase that they like to say again. A reality that filled him with a great sadness, a reality that filled her with a great sadness. And what does this specifically mean? It talks about their jobs. The dad wanted to be a writer but is now an architect. The mom used to be a musician but doesn't do music anymore. And she's like, I think she's like a stay-at-home mom because the mom has like the toys and dolls and socks. So both of the parents are very sad about this, and that quickly eliminates like all of the answer choices except for the one that imply that except for they're not anxious about anything, they're just sad. They never got to reach their dreams. Sad. Next one. I think this one is like pretty straightforward. Which one is the most superstitious? We have like we don't have much information about Nidali, the narrator. Rhonda is just like a random side character. So in the end, is it her mom or is it her dad? And the answer to this, the one to this one, is in paragraph 7. And Mama, who is the most superstitious of all humans, even more than Baba. There we go. So it's gonna be Mom. Answer is F. Number 9. What does the mom? So this is something that's never actually mentioned directly, but yeah, SAT is definitely harder. That's why I recommend. That's why I recommend if you are fast, especially with reading, and you're not super in depth, then I recommend you do ACT instead of SAT. I do a lot better on the ACT anyway, so that's just me. I know some people who do a lot better at SAT because they're a bit slower. So the narrator most strongly suggests that Mama does which of the following when Baba tells stories. This one is not actually direct. You can't actually directly pull this one, but it is kind of hinted. Um, Mama liked to expose him when he told such story, his story cop. Um, you ever get exposed for like lying? You ever hear on the news that, oh, this celebrity has been exposed for doing this thing? In this case, it means that she likes to nitpick, like the dad likes to exaggerate, and the mom likes to criticize that kind of playfully. So you can assume that it would probably be correct about the accuracy of details. And this part would probably be the dad, and it's definitely not A or B. And the last one, in the passage, the narrator makes which of the following distinctions? This one's actually a very, very small detail, but it's not G. It's not G. Her dad is not a musician. Definitely not H because it's if anything, it's the other way around. Dad wants to be a writer. He doesn't want to be an architect. And there is like no indication of music. So by process of elimination, it would probably be F. But if you want to find like the actual evidence that shows that it's F, then look no further than the last line. I knew from the beginning that home meant embellishing. Dad likes to tell stories, and that's why I loved schools. Teachers were there. They taught us facts based on reality. She wants to hear facts. She doesn't want to hear any more exaggeration. So that's all 10 of these questions. If you have any questions, you can drop them now. I will give you like 10, like 20 seconds. Fire away. Yep, we're gonna start working on the next set in like number 3 was A, disapproval followed by resignation. Yes, you will get your redemption. Okay. Now let's go back to the Google Drive. Go back to the Google Classroom. There is another passage in there. Passage 2. This one will be 2 passages. This one's actually like 2 passages rolled into one. It's about the same length though. So good luck. Have fun. you're done. Here, let me show you the result. This is not the answer key. This is not the answer key. This is the first one. Give a second. Bing. How'd you do? Hopefully you did good. Okay, I'm gonna have to go like kind of fast with these explanations. So can you put like which questions you have specifically in the chat? Yay, you got 10 out of 10. Redemption. Yay. If you have any questions about anything specific, please drop it in the chat because like I realize we're kind of running out of time. So I don't want to go over everything. Okay, 13. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, these articles are usually never boring. Like, they're always fun to like kind of look back on and oh, you learned something new. I cannot count the number of times I've learned something new because of an ACT or SAT passage. It's funny. Okay, so number 13 is something to go over. Anything else? 14 and 15. Ooh, yeah. I saw 2 requests for 15, so that one's gonna get priority. 18. Okay. All right. So that will be, I think 4 questions will probably be enough. Let me just exit out of the presentation. And okay, 14, 15, and 13, 14, 15, 18. All right. So this is 2 passages about how cars suck. Yeah, this is kind of funny to read. So 13, the purpose of the quotation marks around the word accessories in line 29. Oh, look, it's a detail. Accessories like bumpers, carburetors, I have no idea what that is, and headlights had to be purchased separately. So the big thing about this is, okay, so first of all, I don't see why B would be the answer. There's no indication of anything legal. C could be that, and D could be that until you look at the context. The context is that the context. So I don't know if you guys have driven a car before. I have not. How important do you think headlights and bumpers are? Like, imagine driving at night without headlights. Yeah, they're really important, and it's ridiculous, and especially before this. And all that bought you was 4 wheels, a body, and an engine. That's really dangerous. Don't crash your car. You will probably die. So it is really important to have bumpers to, protect your cars. Whatever this does, I don't know. Headlights are really important for driving in dark areas. So so from there you can kind of like infer that it would be A. These features are definitely essential if you want to have like a working car that you don't die in. All right, number 14. Which of the following captures how passage B characterizes the failure of the Edsel? So it definitely did not go unnoticed because when it actually released, didn't have like 3 million or so people. It did not happen quickly. Like they were very, very slow about it. Let me see if I can find evidence for that. Yeah, they had it happen really slowly. Like they wouldn't let anyone see them. They every once in a while an Edsel would roll past workers. They were really slow about it. That's kind of the point of it. And it happened on a very big scale. Like they kept marketing this massive thing that's going to show up and it's going to be great. And then it was like a public event. They even called it E-Day, so it's going to be thank you for that information, David. There are exhaust conversion things. Yeah. All right, thank you. I did not know that. More I learn. Okay, so number 15. This one was one that I actually got 2 requests for. So the statement in lines 43 and 45 is typical of passage B. And the way so let's talk about 43 and 45. In the mid 1950s, Ford Motor Company was building not one, not two, but 18 varieties, including a convertible and a station wagon. That's a lot. That's a lot of varieties of car. Generally only release like one at a time or a few at a time, especially back at that time. Like this is like 1960s. They're rushing a lot. So they don't mention consumers, so not that. They don't compare anything. I guess they kind of do with like the 1 and 2, but they don't really mention like another car, so not quite. And they don't mention like involving consumers. They just mention we got a lot of stuff coming, including these new varieties. They don't have anything like, oh, we're catering to you. The big thing is that they're going for a lot. So that's the keyword is extremes. The entire thing was just like, we're gonna make this really big. It's the best thing you've ever seen. And how is that typical? I think the whole passage is just like talking about how amazing this thing was going to be. It was new, it was different, it was it was supposed to be this really big thing, and then it ended up completely flopping. Like they invested too much. And now the last one, number 18. A similarity in these two passages is that they both, oh yeah, this one is definitely very tricky. It's not gonna be G because neither of them talk about the author themselves. They are like entirely like removed from this. It's not J. I did not see anything about like about road conditions or traffic. Actually, traffic and road conditions were like kind of hinted at in A, definitely not B. Um, and they don't say that they've contributed little that is worthwhile. Like nowadays, you see cars everywhere. Like they're not saying cars are useless and they always have been. So it's not H. F it is F because it is maybe it's not like significant, but these are all things that happened long ago. These are all things that are viewed in hindsight. So it is like a hindsight look at these cars and how much they suck. So that is why it's going to be F. I know that that one's definitely a little bit tricky. Yeah, it's F. Did I put something wrong in the slideshow? Yeah, it is. Um, right. I know I had it numbered 1 through 10. So, general tips. Let me present. I will be very brief about these, but these are going to be like general tips um, for the ACT reading section. Watch your time. This one, technically, you have less time for each question. Like more time for each question. Like English, they give you 45 minutes for 75 questions, and math gives you 60 minutes for 60 questions. So this would look easier. Like it's 35 minutes for 40 questions. It seems easier, but it's really not because you have to read these massive passages. Whereas English, you could just like ignore it until it has like a problematic sentence, in which case you can actually read it. So the fact that you have to balance two different things, reading and answering questions, is what makes this section actually hard. And I know lots of people who struggle with like answering everything. So the first thing is read these passages fast. You have a very limited time. You have about 8 minutes, like 9-ish minutes, probably less, to read a passage. So I think the number that I got was take about 2 to 3 minutes to read a passage. Each question should take you about 30, maybe a little bit more, and that gives you a lot of breathing room for reading the questions first and answering it. I will talk about that in a second. That being said, don't think about the time. Like, don't look at a question and be like, oh God, I have 30 seconds to do this. And if you take 40 seconds, oh my God, I have 20 seconds to do this next one. That will stress you out. And like, that's no fun. You'll be thinking more about the time than the actual question. If a question is taking you a while, skip it. The more questions you do, like, these are not weighted. These are not weighted. Like, it's not like, oh, if you do this hard question, then you get boosted more than if you do like 2 easy questions. No, it's better to do the easy questions. That being said, if you want, you should be aiming to answer all of the questions. Okay, so now this part is pretty important. Find the strategy that works for you. I hear a lot of stuff from like star teachers back when that was a thing. That was like elementary school. So if you happen to be doing practice tests for the ACT, do lots of experimentation. You can practice by reading the passage first and then answering the questions. Practice process of elimination versus finding evidence. Glance at the questions first before reading the passage. There is no like 100% solution that will guarantee you a perfect score because everyone is different. Some people will have different experiences. My personal, like from me personally, I read it first and I do the questions, but you do you. Process of elimination is like my favorite thing. Please use it. That will see like whenever you don't know, then just like use it. Once you've eliminated the first like 4 answer choices into something like 2, you can analyze which one is more correct. Like technically both of them can be like correct, but which one is like more accurate. And the last one is this one is kind of this one's like probably the most important part, but use your sleuthing skills. This one you won't see it in like a book. Like I was actually glancing at a book for like what test strategies can I put, and I realized they never actually mentioned this one. A lot of ACT rating questions, they like to ask you about specific details, like the premium cars one from that one and from the second one, and the lint and dandruff, and it will and like how much time you spend looking for that detail can be a make or break of the thing, because like after you find it, like it's smooth sailing, but sometimes like it takes a while to find. Like I remember I was reading this one section on of this one passage on like botany, and I was spending so long looking for like this one little detail about a flower. It was stupid. The tricky part is finding that detail so that you won't waste too much time. It helps to write like a keyword next to paragraphs, like in the cars one. Like this one could be like why the car sucks, why Edsel sucks, why there was a stock market crash at this point. That way you kind of have like a roadmap, a vague like idea of like where everything is. That way you don't get too lost. This helps with like chronological questions too. Okay, so that's actually all my slides. I am going to be heading off for now. I don't like there's not much else about ACT. So I will post a homework assignment later. But I'm actually not going to be ending this webinar quite yet because wait, I don't know if I can. Give me one moment. Actually, I think like you can totally start on this. There's a physics. There's an advanced physics thing that's starting up. So if you want to stick around for that, like be my guest. I am because I have to like stay in here so I can pass on the host thing. I'm going to like stay in the chat, but I'm not going to be looking at it. And if you want to stay for the physics thing, good on you. But like, yeah. So physics thing at 5:30. If you want to stay there, be my guest. Other than that, bye. I will go do your homework. It's good.